peace and blessings to you. My name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. You know, one of the most exciting things about what I do is having the opportunity to interview great EntreMusicians from all over the world. Today's conversation is no exception because I introduce to you a man of great wisdom, vast experience, singer, author, songwriter, poet, and it goes on and on and on. But the thing I really dig about him is he said, most importantly, is husband and father. We're going to get into a wonderful conversation with Lou Martin, and you're going to enjoy it. But before we do that, you know, we got to do this. All of everything that we do, our interviews, our website, our podcast, are sponsored by the wonderful people at Vocal. Vocal is the only beverage on the planet designed to soothe, refresh, and restore your voice. If you talk all day like I sometimes do, or you sing all night like Lou does, you have to get yourself some Vocal. Go to drinkvocal.com to learn more. Lou, welcome to the EntreMusician.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How you doing today?
Well, I'm fine. I was just looking at Vocal, and you know what? I wish I had that all those years ago.
Well, we could get you some now. I mean, you know, I could talk to the people. It's a wonderful beverage, and it does everything that I said it does. It soothes, refreshes, and restores your voice, for sure.
When you're on the road and you're doing a lot of singing, you're on the road and you got a couple of performances, you know, you sometimes get hoarse. You might
That's right.
Have a little cold or something. So that would have been a nice addition to this.
Yes.
You know.
Well, I wish he would have thought about this so many years ago. Now, out of incredible respect, you have been in the music industry for several decades. And the conversation that we had prior to this, I know that God has used you in this arena, that arena, performance after performance after performance. How did you get started?
Well, you know, that's an interesting story. I started singing, and I went on the Ted Mack Amateur Hour, which was that's been a long time ago, and only the older viewers will understand who Ted Mack was. It was like America's Got Talent or The Voice or American, you know, whatever, one of those talent shows. And I made it to the finals up in New York and lost to a dog act. Yeah, I did. So
did he bark better than you, or what happened?
Well, the dog, and they were cute dogs, and I'd never been to the big city, and I remember going up, didn't fly up, went up on a train, went out to Union Station in Washington, D.C., and went into Penn Station up in New York. And so there was a talent guy who contacted me, wanted to sign me to a contract, a vocal contract. And at that time, I was living in Southeast Washington, D.C., up near Capitol Hill. It's now called Capitol Hill. It wasn't so Tony back then, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so we lived on Capitol Hill, and I come from a big Italian family, poor but honest.
Yeah.
And I grew up speaking Italian, Sicilian dialect, because that's where my family's from, Messina. So I came back home. I wanted to think about it and discuss it with my family. And the talent guy said, I want to introduce you some guys over in Anacostia in the southeast sections of Washington, D.C. So they were looking for a lead tenor. And this was 1957. So we got hooked up with this group, I did, and it was a great mesh. I first met Ronnie Lutz, who later became, and still is, my best friend, and co-manager of our group, became co-manager of our group. And we started singing, entered 23 talent contests and won them. Wow. Next thing you know, this talent agent has hooked us up to go on the Bob Hope tour, USO tours.
Wow.
So we started going around the country, and our first gig was a place called Bowling Air Force Base in DC, in Washington, D.C. right next to the Naval Air Station there. So we would be performing there, and these planes would be coming and taking and landing, taking off and landing, and you hear the noise, you keep on singing. So I did get to meet Martha Ray, who was an amazing human being, and Jere who was a comedian, a big comedian at the time. Never met Bob Hope.
Oh,
But
I
later
see.
on, we started going into the recording thing. We did TV shows. There used to be one that was very popular on the East Coast called The Milk Grant Show. And it was pretty big. And we did shows, we did performances there, and we did performances on the Buddy Dean Show, which was another television show out of Baltimore, as we were talking about earlier. And next thing you know, we eventually made a record. We finished the record up. And a guy by the name of Sonny Stitt played on one of our records.
Sonny Stitt, yeah.
Yes. We were in Columbia Studios recording it, and we were two of the guys and myself were there, Jimmy Dersh, Ron Lutz, and myself. And these two fellows came in, and one of them was carrying a horn in his case, and the other was just with him. So we were sitting around waiting because it was a little early, and he looked at us and says, "Hey, fellas, what y'all up to today?" And I said, "Well, we're going to be recording." So really, he said, "Well, where's your band?" I said, "Well, we have a keyboard." He said, "Well, you want a bass and maybe a horn?" Well, our manager hadn't even showed up because he said, "Well, where's your manager?" I said, "I don't know." I was 16.
Oh, my.
So he says, "Well, let's go into our studio and mess around." The engineer showed up shortly. We're just going. So we didn't know this man from Adam. Went in and did a couple of takes of it, and not recorded, but we did a couple turns on it.
Yeah.
It sounded good. And then the engineer showed up, and he got himself set up. Our manager, Buddy Katzfa, at the time, showed up. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, we do the both takes, and they're recorded. And back then, they recorded with tape.
Yeah, right.
There was no, it wasn't like today.
Right.
With all the electronics and so forth. It was tape. And when they wanted to fix it.
Big 2-inch tape.
Big 2-inch tape. And when they wanted to fix it, they'd roll it back and forth, take a pair of scissors, and then put some Scotch tape over top of it. And there you go. And kept rolling. So we were getting ready to leave, and I went up to the fellow, and he said something to me. I didn't realize at the time who he was. I said, "You know what? What do you think? What do you think about it? How do you think we did today?" He says, "Son, you're asking the wrong man. Because what my music, people don't like my music. And my music don't sell." Well, I never could figure that out, and then we said our goodbyes and we thanked him for it. Well, later, my manager came out and he said, "Do you know who that was?" I said, "Nope, I sure don't." He said, "Sonny Stitt."
Wow.
I said, "Okay." I had no idea
like, who was that, right?
Was. And he consented to come and play for us. Well, he didn't leave. He went to another studio to do his thing. I had no idea till many years later who Sonny. I just dismissed it. I was young. I had my mind on other things.
Sure.
But he played on our first single 45.
Wow. Now, what was the name of your group?
The original group was called the Bobolinks.
The Bobolinks.
After the bird.
Okay.
And we're in all the record books. We're blessed enough to be mentioned in all three of the major books about the early 1/3 of Doo Wop.
I see.
And we're flattered by that. And recently, we were flattered by the Smithsonian Institute in conjunction with the District of Columbia government, the Washington D.C. government. They erected a plaque honoring our group right across the street in Anacostia, where we first started performing in 1957. So, there's two ways of looking at this. You're excited about it, and then you come back to earth when you realize if you live long enough, everybody hates you is gone, and people put up nice things. And I don't know. Like most of the fellas say, "Hey, take it and run."
That's right.
So we have, but Anacostia is where we started in 1957. And we later, in 1961, changed our name to The Memories.
The Memories.
And we performed everywhere and we've been together, to answer your earlier question, 60 years.
Wow. You're still performing? Still
Off and
performing?
on, we'll do perform. We just did a performance for the. We were inducted into the Maryland Entertainers Hall of Fame,
Excellent.
along with the Vocal Group Hall of Fame and the
Yeah.
Doo Wop Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And we got together to do that. And there were 100 of us.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
we'll still do occasional gigs, but not as much, you know.
Yeah.
I look at it this way: God blessed me with 60 years of success,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to be the guy that's going to go up there and start whoa, you know, on stage and sound like just like what I am, an old guy, you know. I want to. He said, you know, I've given you this. You should be very happy with this, and I'm blessed with that.
Absolutely.
So that's how I got started in the business.
Wow.
It was a long journey, throughout which the whole time I've been blessed to continue to do it. I've been in good health.
Yeah.
I was able to sing. I think I missed one performance in 60 years.
Wow. Why? Okay, we got to ask why.
I had strep throat. And with strep throat, you know, you just can't go out. It was sad because I went to the gig. We went on stage. I couldn't talk hardly. And Ronnie Lutz, who was my co-manager at the time, he explained to the people out in the audience that I was kind of messed up physically as far as my throat, but I was going to try. And I was doing the lead part for this song, and reached for a high note, and it was not there. So, and you could see the audience. The audience is so. That's a beautiful thing about an audience. They want you to succeed.
That's true. True.
They want you to do good because they paid money and they want to be entertained and enjoy their time.
That's right.
So I felt terrible, but they felt worse for me.
Oh.
And they started applauding, and I'm standing there holding my throat. So I left the stage. I begged off, and you know, to a nice round of applause, and that was the one time. Yeah, it was it was awful, but.
My goodness. And we have here in Youngstown, Ohio, where I'm from, we have the legendary Edsels. I'm sure.
Edsels.
Yeah. I'm sure that you were on a few gigs with them.
Yeah, we did some tours in the early years with them. We did tours, and this is, I think, a thing that the audience should know about. We would go on an old bus that had a toilet, and it was always backed up, and they didn't have enough money to clean the toilet out. And we were touring with a group called the Orioles and a group called it was Reese Palmer, who worked with, shoot, I'm gonna have to remember this and get back to you on that one, but there was two groups. No, actually,
One bus? One bus?
One bus. It was Reese, it was the Orioles, the Memories, and the Clovers. So we go into this town in Alabama, and we just got there around 2 in the morning. So we're going to drop our equipment off, come back for our sound check the next afternoon before working the following night. Went into place, and I looked around, and they had this screen across the stage, like a wire. So there was a guy sweeping the floor. I said, "Excuse me, can you help me?" He said, "Sure, what can I do for you?" I said, "What's this wire here? It's kind of getting," he said, "Oh, no, you need that." Why? He said, "Well, if they don't like you, they'll throw beer bottles at you." And I said, "Are you, look, I'm a city boy. Nothing wrong with the country. I love the country, but I didn't know much about the country." And he said, "They will throw beer at you. They'll throw the bottles at you, glasses, whatever they got." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And then he told me he identified himself. He was the manager. And Diz Russell came in with some of the fellas. And this guy walked up to Diz, says, you know, and they were putting us up over top of the bar in basically just room with 2 beds in them.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, "Y'all can't stay here." And Diz says, "Why?" He says, "Well, you're colored." And I said, "What? What did he say, Diz?" He said, "Don't worry about it, Louis." He said, "I'll handle it." He said, "Come on, fellas." And he and Reese Palmer and a couple of the other guys went out there, and He said, we'll get the bus driver to take us to another place.
Wow.
So, you know, we become very close to these fellows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we all turned around and said, let's go. We loaded up the bus and we all left. So the guy comes outside before we left and tried, you going to be here? You going to do the show? I said, we'll be here tomorrow night. All of us will be here tomorrow night.
That's right.
We're not staying here.
Right.
So that was the rule with us, you know, that was, but I had never been exposed to that.
My
This
goodness.
was all new to me.
Yeah.
And Ronnie and I sat there in the bus and we're riding and trying to find a place that would take us all to sleep, get a room.
Right.
I said, what's wrong with these people? I said, you know, Ronnie, I don't know, man. And I said, I'm going to call our manager and I'm going to bow out. I don't want to be around these people. You know, they don't want to give you a room. We're all in this together. I mean, we were a team. And when I say that, if we had problems with moving stuff around, all the acts, we would all get in and work together and help each other.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there was some bitter with the sweet as you were growing up.
Sure. Sure.
And, you know, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Later on, you know, things as years progressed, it got so much better. We played, and interestingly enough, and I'm going to say this because it's the truth. We played in black clubs. We did the Chitlin circuit. We did a lot of that on that Chitlin circuit, including the Howard Theater in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Never were we mistreated. Never were we disrespected by the crowds of the people.
Understood.
Or of color. I mean, of color. I'm, you know, I'm not a big crusader. I'm simply telling you what happened. This is the truth deal. They treated us good and received us like it made no difference whatsoever.
Yes.
And just reinforced our position that, you know, this was out of kilter, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Now, so, you know, my understanding in certain documentaries that I watched concerning the time where we were experiencing as a country such bitter hatred between the races, it was the musicians. It was the musicians that helped bring it together when there were those clubs that they had the walls that separated blacks and whites, or they had a gate down the middle. The music would allow them to start dancing and break down those walls. It's amazing the power of music.
Yes, it is. And you know what? If somebody had come in our dressing room, they would have found all the fellows in it from all the acts. We would jump in one dressing room or another. It didn't make a difference. We all hung together. Right. We would play checkers, dominoes. We play cards because, you know, like a lot of people don't know, a lot of what musicians do. Like when you play Vegas or when you play any nice venue, you sit in your dressing room for, sometimes 2-3 hours.
That's right.
Waiting for that knock on the door. 5 minutes, memories, 5 minutes. So music itself brought people together.
That's right.
And music was a blessing. Mm-hmm. After all, in spite of the harshness of the business.
Yes.
You know, I've had a lot of funny anecdotal things happen to me over the years. And if you live to be, I'll be 82 in November, this coming November. So,
you look great.
Grazie mille, signore. Thanks a lot, my friend. So I've had so much fun and so many anecdotal things happen, like that Sonny Stitt thing. You know, that's something that most people don't appreciate. Here was one of the most renowned sax guys in the world.
Absolutely.
Not the U.S., the world.
That's right.
And he played on our first record. And by accident, it was just fate. Or God made it happen. I mean.
Well, that's a resume right there when you have Sonny Stitt in the studio with you and then it's a recorded project.
Yeah, and we just met just by accident in the same studio at the same time. Wow. And I've had a lot of fun with a lot of people. And I got to tell you, 99.8% of the time and all of the interactions I ever had with other fellow musicians has been positive.
Yes.
Amazingly positive.
Yes.
So only had one run-in in all those years, and that was with another Italian guy from a well-known group. We were talking about from New York City. And it worked out okay too. You know, it worked out real good.
Well, tell me this. How did you end up with the name The White Supreme? Now, how did that happen?
Again, with all these stories or memories, no pun intended. We were doing a show. I was entitled. We were supposed to be on the show, but one of the guys had an emergency down in Florida with his family, and he couldn't be there, and he was in really an integral part of our group, so we couldn't perform. So I was invited up to the Hall of Fame as a guest, a VIP guest, and it was being held in a semi-pro baseball stadium just across the border from Pennsylvania and Ohio. And there were a lot of big acts there. So I was hanging around, and over the years, I've become very good friends with Mary Wilson of the Supremes. Mary is a good friend of both my wife and myself. Mm-hmm. And she was there, and I was hanging around. I was talking to Tony Battalo, the Letterman, when she rushed up and says, "Louie, you got to help me." So I'd never seen her upset. And I said, "Mary, take it easy. What's up?" She said, "Well, my girls can't get here. They're not going to be able to back me up." And so what I did is I got our manager to go around locally and try and find somebody that sings. And all he could get were two girls who sing in a couple of local bars. I said, "Sounds to me like you got it all fixed and all squared away." She said, "No, I haven't. Their lead singers, they don't even know how to sing harmony."
Wow.
So I said, "Ooh, that's not good. How long do you have?" She said, "Well, we go on in 59 minutes. I said, "So you want me to do what?" She said, "Go in there and teach them some harmony." So I said, "How can I teach harmony to somebody in 58 minutes?" She said, "Please, Louie." I said, "Okay." So I went in, and the two nice young ladies, and by the way, this was caught on film. There's a big film of the show.
Okay.
Everybody was on it. Kenny Vance well, I can name them all, but I'd be wasting time. But anyway, it was probably 10 acts. So I go into the room with these two young ladies, both nice looking young ladies. And I said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you what your notes should be, and I want you to sing along. Mary's only going to do 2 songs, and the background is very simple." So I gave them the note, and so I said, "You start singing, and I'm going to harmonize with you. And you listen to what I'm doing." So the first girl is singing. I'm singing harmony with her, watching the other girl who's intently watching us. So I said, "Join in." And so she joins in. She sounded okay. I said, "Okay, you guys take it." Well, she hadn't gone 3 bars before she broke into singing the same note as the other girl.
I see.
And during this whole time when I'm trying to teach them, Mary Wilson's running back and forth, inside, outside. "What's going on, Lou? How we doing?" And I said, "Mary, we're not doing any better than 5 minutes ago when you came running in here. Please, let me do this." So she laughs and said, "Okay, Lou, I know you'll do it." Didn't happen. These girls could not sing harmony. And you know, harmony is a discipline. Mm-hmm. It's harder than singing lead, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. Harmonies, you have to stay in your lane.
Right.
And you have to sing no louder than the person you're singing with.
That's right.
You know, there's a lot of variables that go into this. So finally I figured, she came busting in. She said, "I got 10 minutes, Lou. What are you going to do?" I said, "Step outside, Mary. Let's talk." So I said, "Mary, it's not going to work. These girls cannot harmonize." She said, "What am I going to do?" I said, "I don't have my stage outfits or anything with me." I said, "But here's what I'll do. I'll go on with you, and I'll get them to sing their one note. Both of them sing the same note, and I'll provide a piece of harmony. So you actually have 2 harmonics. Right. You'll have 2 notes." She said, "Oh, that's better than nothing." "Yeah, will you do that?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do that." So, showtime. These girls are trembling. They've never been in front of a baseball stadium that holds 25,000 people, and it's full.
Wow.
And so, well, I said, "Take it easy. Don't even look at the people. Look over their heads and just listen to me, and I'll talk to you sotto voice. I'll whisper kind of to you." So we go out on stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Wells." And she walks out. I mean, Mary Wilson.
Uh,
My apology. Mary Wilson.
that's right.
She walks out, and there's applause. So I said, now remember, now when we start moving, all I want you to do is sway, just to kick off on your left foot and follow me. And as we sing, we're just going to sway back and forth. It's simple, but it'll work. It's a visual.
Right.
So long story short, we start off, we get through the first song, and now I said, see, isn't it great? You're doing good. We do the second song. She takes her bow. She's getting ready to leave. She turns to walk out. We turn. I said, well, follow her out off stage. Mary first, then us. So we're starting to go out the door, off stage left, and here comes Charlie Thomas of the Drifters. Mm-hmm. He hollers at me, Louie, stay there. I need you to back me up. I gave him the high sign. I said, follow me. We walked back and took the same positions behind the same microphones we did for Mary. And he did Under the Boardwalk, which, as you know, of course, Under the Boardwalk.
Right.
Under the boardwalk. It's pretty simple background. Right. So it's the girl and says, what do we sing? I said, Under the Boardwalk. What? Under the Boardwalk. Huh? Just sing Under the Boardwalk and you'll be fine. It worked out great. Charlie did the one song, talked for 10 minutes, but he did one song, and these girls will probably still talking about it today. It was a big deal for them. It was filmed and had the big articulated camera coming down in front of the stage. Wow. It was a nice deal. And that was my deal. And well, as we got ready to, as Mary, I left out the most important part. As Mary got ready to leave earlier before Charlie came out, she said, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to do something. I've got to tell you about something. She walks over to me, and we were behind her, taps me on the shoulder, and she says, this is Lou Martin. He's with a group called The Memories, you all know, and we got a smattering of applause. She said, but today something more important happened. And she said, you know what that was? And of course, there was a little murmur like, what was? He's, ladies and gentlemen, he is my first white Supreme. And seriously, and she caught me off base too, because I wasn't aware of that. She caught me off base and she gave me a big kiss on the cheek, and I hugged her, and then we got a big standing O. Everybody got a big kick out of that. So we walked off stage, and that was it. So yeah, that was a nice thing to Mary, and she's a sweetheart, by the way.
Yes, I can imagine.
She's a good person, and
Motown royalty.
I think so.
Absolutely.
She was a little upset with the breakup of the group and so forth and so on, but she's persevered and she's done well. She's living in Las Vegas now. She's near her family, and we stay in touch.
Excellent.
But that's just one of many, many interesting things that happened to me over 60 plus years of music.
But you've authored several books, and I know one of them is about the Memories, your band. Right. But tell me about some of the other books that you've written as well.
Well, the music business is fickle. You're up and you're down. Mm-hmm. Some days are diamonds and some days are coal.
Right.
So after our first, we had a pretty good hit with our first one. It wasn't huge, but it was a pretty good hit. It made money. And as a result, the royalty checks slowed and came to a trickle. I had a young family. I had to get a job. Well, I had 2 years of college under my belt at the time. So I applied for the police department.
I see.
Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. Was accepted after the test and all that. You go through quite a procedure. And I served with them and was still singing and performing. And whenever a gig would come up, we could go on tour. Sometimes they would let me off on a Friday. I could get off and come back on a Monday and make up the time during the week. I could tour on the weekends, do the concert stuff. So that worked out really well for me. I put almost 12 years in the job until I got injured pretty badly on the job. I lost my kidney and a spleen.
I see.
During the riots of '68, by the way.
Huh.
And so I retired,
What city? What city was this? May I?
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Okay,
Washington,
got it.
D.C. And the police department was good to me. They've taken care of me. In the meantime, over the years, I've always had this idea I wanted to write a book. Wasn't sure if I could. And I got good guidance. They said, you do it. And the first book I wrote was it was a legacy book, really. It was about the group that I'd grown up with and was still performing with. It was called A Doo Wop Journey.
Mm-hmm.
The Memories, A Doo Wop Journey. And Cross Books was the publishers, and it did very well. I followed that up a couple of years later with another book called Rats with Badges.
Rats with Badges.
Rats.
Yeah.
So you have to understand what I'm talking about. When you say rats to a policeman, they know you're talking about the internal affairs. They call it the Rat Squad. So Rats with Badges. Interestingly enough, I went to a police expo, and it was happened during Police Week every year. And I went there, and the publisher had set up a stand, and I was there, and I was wearing my badge on a lanyard, my retired badge. So I noticed this group of young policemen looking at the books that had a display there, and they were murmuring among themselves, and they didn't look too happy with me. So finally, they got up the courage. One of them comes over and says, "Hey, you write these books?" I said, "Yeah, I did." He said, "What's with this Rats with Badges business? Is that what you think of? You're a retired policeman, right?" I said, "Yeah, sure am." He said, "Well, what do you think about saying something like that about your fellow officers?" I said, "That has nothing to do with them. What do you call rats anyway on the job?" "Oh, that's internal affairs." "Oh, yeah, internal affairs. Rats who carry badges." I said, "So you ought to think before you judge." He said, "Just a minute." He went back. There was about 10 or 12 of them. Went back. Now, these are policemen from all over the country, the world, actually. There were some policemen from England, France, Germany. So next thing you know, he comes back, and they buy about 15, 20 books.
Wow.
And then they passed the word around. Of course, they wiped out whatever the publisher sent into that day.
Wow.
So I found it funny that they were looking at the cover of a book and not understanding what the title meant. So,
judging a book by its cover, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no pun intended. So I followed that up. Each book is a process.
Yeah. And
it's about a 15, 16-month process.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to Italy to do my research for the book because some parts of the book occurred in Italy.
I see.
And speaking the language, it afforded me the opportunity to visit with my family as well as practice. So I came back and wrote the second book, mm-hmm. which is a sequel to the first one, and it's called Relentless.
Relentless. Okay.
So these are police thrillers. One of them has a strong female lead in it, who's a very complex character. Most of my characters in the book are interesting. I believe, as a writer, you like to think that these people, these seem live to you.
Yeah.
They become interesting. So I've been lucky. The books do well, and I started my fourth one. But the truth of the matter is, between you and I and whoever's watching the show, and I hope a lot of people will watch it, I'm not embarrassed to say that one of the reasons I wrote the book was the first was a piece just to be remembered for the group, my first book. And I learned while I wrote that book.
Yeah.
But I wanted to write it from a first person standpoint of having lived that many years in the music business.
Yeah.
But the other books, I wanted to write something because I wanted people to understand that I knew what a subject and a predicate was.
Yeah.
And I could put a sentence together. I might be a musician, and on top of that, being a cop, a retired cop. But I know what a subject and a predicate is. And I finished my undergraduate degree, and actually started my master's and stopped. I'm going to pick that back up after my newest book is published.
That's
Finish
excellent.
that up. Just for fun.
Yeah. Now, what's the title of the new book?
I never title my books until I'm about halfway to three-quarters of the way through.
Wow.
You know, and it has to come to me because I have a hard time finding a name. There's so many things that may or may not apply. And generally what happens is it pops in my head at the oddest times.
I see.
I was mowing my front yard the last time I got the name for my current book.
I understand. I understand how that works.
Yeah, you know, you're a creative person,
Yeah.
and you know that things happen and they just happen. And when they do, you grab them.
Can you give us a little tiny little tad of what the book is about? Just give us a little teaser.
Well, the book revolves around a detective sergeant, which incidentally was my rank when I retired, named Tony Spinella. And the name Spinella is very, very, very precious to me because it was my grandmother's maiden name.
Yes.
Okay. So Tony Spinella is a tough ex-Marine who's a detective lieutenant in charge of the robbery squad. He's a no-nonsense guy. He just does his job. He's honest as the day is long. And somebody drops in and drops a bomb on him by letting him know that some people in his squad are dirty and they're stealing the narcotics out of the property room. And this involves him having to notify the chief because of this. And then he's worried about it. And the chief says, he really asks the chief if he can please, I don't want to handle it because the chief, whom he is known from rookie school together, wants him to handle it because the chief says, I trust you, Tony. Tony says, no, I don't want to do this. I'm a lieutenant of the robbery squad. I'm not internal affairs. He said, no, internal affairs may be involved. What we got to do is, I want you to develop it, and then we'll go from there. I'll give you all the research. Well, it goes from there. They find out that there's a lot more going on. And when people find out that Tony Spinella is involved, they send people to take care of Tony. Tony, during the course of this book, is attacked several times. Tony lives in a townhouse that he refurbished that was once owned by his mom and dad, who since passed, that sits right on Capitol Hill, right on 6th and I Street, right there in Capitol Hill. Mm-hmm. Very wealthy area, high-priced real estate, and he's rebuilding the whole house from the inside out, and he's very handy. So that's where he lives. And so a lot of this takes place on Capitol Hill. Mm. And bad things can happen to you no matter where you live.
Right, right.
So he has his cast of characters, one of whom was a confidential informant that he met when he was walking a beat in Southwest Washington. And he has a lot of faith in him. And the young man used to call Tony Cool Breeze. So that's what he called him. And all the neighborhood kids called him Cool Breeze. And they would all tell him what was going on. And so this thing develops with trusted members of his squad, and it goes on and on and on until at the very end, the person who's responsible for this ends up on the run. Tony is shot and nearly killed, and that's just the part that I'll tell you about. The book has a lot of action. It's a lot of interesting aspects of the book, which, as far as the descriptions of the area around Washington, D.C. Yeah. A lot of people are familiar with this area from just being tourists to the United States Capitol building.
Sure, sure.
And this is within spitting distance of that.
Wow.
And so it's a character-driven book. Tony's a good person. He's pretty narrow-sighted in terms of he's watching straight ahead. He's doing his job, and that's what he's going to do. No matter what happens, he's going to do his job. But it goes so far as these people hire people to come in to kill him. So I found that fascinating because some of the things that you write about are based on truth, and some of the things you write about are based on putting a little yeast in the truth.
That's true. Yeah.
So you can't, some things you can't write about, some things you can.
That's right.
The second book is called Relentless, and it takes off from there, and it has a strong female character in it. She's very complex, Anita's a good person, but she's emotionally troubled. And she has periods where she's totally lucid and other periods where she's in a very dark place. So I have a soft spot in my heart for the character Anita, who's carried through on both books, because she started out as a good, warm, loving young lady who came to Washington, D.C. to work and ended up working for the police department, and ended up, through no fault of her own, really messed up by circumstances, and then going progressively down from there. And at the end, she was blaming the very people that had helped her when she first came to Washington, D.C.
I see. Yeah.
So it gets worse, because she has now, in the second book, she now has the resources and the diabolical intent to wreak havoc on those who she feels have harmed her. So it takes place in both the United States, the Bahamas, and in Washington, D.C.
I see.
That's the two books, Rats with Badges and Relentless. So for those of you readers, if they do read them and pick them up, hopefully you'll enjoy them. I found them to be, they were my babies.
Yeah. Understood.
And I'm proud of them. And I've got a lot of feedback from people.
That's wonderful. Well, that's the beauty of being an EntreMusician, because you take that creative spirit, and whether you set it to music or not, these characters, these emotions, these scenes that play in your head always come out. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to have learned so much from you, and grateful for the experiences that you've shared with us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I mean, wonderful. You make me feel good about going before and establishing the things that you have seen, that you have really set for us younger musicians a platform. And I'm forever grateful.
Well, I appreciate it too. And speaking of music, I firmly believe that preparation, it's the old Peter principle.
Mm-hmm.
Preparation, I'm not going to use the phrase because you know what it says.
Yes.
And I even went so far during the early days of, I'm the guy who was always making sure that everybody got to where they were supposed to be, brought what they were supposed to bring with them, were prepared for the gig, showed up at the airline, showed up at the bus station, showed up at the train station.
Yeah.
Ronnie Lutz, who is, like I say, a member of the group, and also one of my dear friends, he and I, between the two of us, we were the ones who made this thing happen as far as keeping it together, because, musicians they're free spirits.
Like herding cats.
And they're going to float around, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that. And, I developed a program for it. The program dealt with stage, how you approach the stage, entrance onto the stage, exit onto the stage, placements of mics. So I developed what I called a stage plat, a lighting plat for the lighting guys, a sound plat for the sound man. And with this, as far as the stage plat was concerned, that covered entrance to and exit from the stage, where you stand, where your equipment should be, and where the amount of space you have to roam if you're tethered to a speaker or an amp. Then I got into where, when I was doing a writing up a course for a junior college down here in Southern Maryland, the actual mechanics of singing, not the actual singing, but the mechanics of singing, how you roll a note, your lip placement, air intake, breathing in terms of diaphragm, not just the air in your mouth, the way you roll a word, or the way you place your lips, your tongue, all these things, your closeness, how close you get to a mic will affect the sound that comes out. A lot of singers have a problem with over singing. Right. They don't have to. That microphone is designed to do the job for you. Mm-hmm. And you can just do your job, stand back, and let the mic do its job. These modern technology is amazing. And a lot of singers don't take advantage of it. They'll splatter, what we call splatter. They get too close and they splatter.
Right.
And if you're sharing a mic, that's terrible to start off with, because there's all kinds of stuff on that mic and you don't want to get too close to it anyway. So you don't know whose mouth has been on that microphone. I'm telling you, even though we carried our own mics with us, I always had my own mic. My mic was my mic.
I understand.
And we use Shure mics because they're great. They're friendly to singers.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
They're just friendly to singers. And we've had them for all those years. But
wow.
Singing and keeping things together, making sure they show up on time, prepared to do their job. The musicians are kind of loose, and you tell them you got to be at the airport at a certain time. You have to be at the airport at a certain time. You can't be strolling in, because especially today with all the security arrangements you have to go through.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Keeping it all together as a manager, a band manager, not a business manager, but as a band guy.
Sure.
Also being sensitive to their feelings. You can't be too oppressive to the guys, because you're all in this together, and we're all a family. When you're on the road, you have to be cohesive.
That's right. That's correct.
So I'll tell you one quick story. We had one guy who was a sax player.
Mm-hmm.
He was gray hair, gray mustache and so forth.
Something like this.
Yeah, yours look good, doesn't it? So I'm getting ready to sing the first song, and behind us was a huge screen showing us. And it's disconcerting when you're looking this way, because you see something fluttering behind you on a huge screen. The same thing happened to us when we were doing a Long Island Coliseum. We did a concert up there, and there was 23 acts, everything from Mel Carter to the Skyliners. They were all there. We were doing the show, and we had a young man with us who was he was a guitar player, but he had never performed as a singer with us. One of our singers couldn't make it. So Glenn Borch was his name. I'll never forget this. He still plays with us. Walked out on stage, and before we went out there, I said, "Now, Glenn, we rehearsed this. You sound great, man. Just hang it in, do your part." Well, when we walked out on stage, and he looked out there, and that Coliseum probably has a 45-foot screen by 25 foot tall. And he walked out there and looked up and saw himself. He absolutely almost froze. And this guy's a veteran. He wasn't, but he'd never been exposed to something like that.
Right.
So Ronnie, bless his heart, said, "Come on, Glenn, we'll get it, buddy, we'll get it." And he pulled it out, man. He pulled it out. And the lead singer for the Cleftones was behind us. And when we got off stage, he said, "Man, that was great. You guys did you got a standing O. You did a good job." And Glenn acted like he'd been doing this for 40 years. Oh yeah, okay, man, thank you, man. Do you have a moment to tell you another story?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
We were sharing a dressing room with the Orioles. We were at Long Island Coliseum. We're in the room before, just waiting, hanging out, waiting. And like I told you, a lot of time you wait, hanging around a long time before you go on stage. Well, long story short, these guys walk in the door and says, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "We're doing fine." He said, "Y'all the Bobolinks?" I said, "Well, we're Bobolinks / Memories." And he looked at me and said, "Really?" Gave me the look, I said, "Really?" He said, "Well, what was your first song?" We told him. I said, "What label?" We told him. He says, "This can't be, man." I said, "What you talking about?" He said, "Y'all supposed to be dead. Y'all got to be dead. That's a long time ago." Bobolink? And these guys were the 5 discs. They had, these guys they had a big career. Well, and then Boots, one of the singers one of the original guys, says, "Hey, Louie, I'm not dead. You dead?" I said, "No, I'm not dead." So the guy looked at the 2 guys from the 5 discs, looked at us, says, "Stay right there. We'll be right back. We want to go get the rest of the guys and the manager." I said, "We ain't going anywhere. We're in our dressing room. We're not going anywhere." They rushed out, came back with the whole group and everybody, and they peppered us with questions about how'd you do this, when you do that, and things about back in '57 when we were first performing.
Yeah.
And they wanted, another thing about performers don't generally ask for anything from another performer. That's not something you do. You don't ask for autographs from another performer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure there's been instances where that has happened.
Right.
But generally speaking, you don't. These guys wanted us to sign papers for them, asked us if we had any memorabilia. Well, we gave them a couple of hats we had and sheet music, that our original sheet music. We all signed that for them, and they were made us feel like somebody.
Wow.
I mean, Brian said, "Man, is this for real? These guys, they're asking us for our autograph. We should be asking them for their autograph."
My.
So that happened, and it's just funny about music and little things that have happened.
That's right.
People you've met. I can't express how much I learned from people that I met on the road.
Yeah.
In the business.
Yes. Yes.
Now, you notice I've left out one large group of people. That's the record companies.
Yes.
The record companies didn't do us any favors.
Uh-huh.
They'll sign you, and they'll tell you what they're going to. Back then, they would give you a penny and a half, 2 cents on a record, something like that, if you're really good.
Sure.
Our first contract with Colt 45 Records, I think we got a penny and a half, 1.5 cents per copy sold.
Mm-hmm.
What they didn't tell you is when you flew on an airplane and there was a guy off and there was a car waiting for you, all the bulletin boards with your pictures on them, you paid for that.
Yes, you did. Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
It's a hard lesson learned.
Well, much hasn't changed, unfortunately, and that will have to be another episode because, you know, when you're dealing with Spotify and a lot of the online platforms, I don't mean to hang Spotify out to dry, but a lot needs to be rectified with respect to paying artists their worth. So what we're going to do is we'll schedule another interview where we talk about record companies. We talk about the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and then what has transpired today. We'll do that. I'd love to have another conversation with you at some point.
Well, I'm flattered to be here. I'm flattered to know you, and I'm flattered to consider you my pal. You do a great service for people in this business.
I appreciate it.
And anybody who goes in this business has got to understand it's great rewards and great pain and suffering. I can tell you, and talent. Here's the biggest thing before we say goodbye. Having talent is wonderful. That's not the only thing. There's so many talented people out there that never made it because they weren't in the right place at the right time.
That's
or
correct.
Didn't know the right people.
That's correct.
So you see that when you watch these talent shows on television. There's so many young, talented people.
That's right.
Really talented. So again, I'd like to say thank you for having me. I certainly.
It's my honor. My absolute honor, Lou. I mean, I'm grateful for your knowledge, for sharing all of your experiences, the wonderful stories. And please know that we'll absolutely talk again on this platform. And man, I'd love to talk some more Motown with you, some more Mary Wilson.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I got some really cool stories to tell you about Motown. What's going on with that?
Fantastic.
You know, Mary told me a lot of things about Motown.
I'm sure. and she revealed a lot of stuff in her books as well, you know. And
do we have 1 minute? Do we have 1 minute?
Yes, we do. Yes, sir.
We did a show in a place called Jere, Pennsylvania. It was a Hall of Fame induction show.
Jere, Pennsylvania, by the way, is 40 minutes away from where I am right now. Just so you know.
Gotta be kidding! I love that. I love it there. Yeah. I loved it. Shenango Valley.
Right.
Well, so we did the show, and we went to the hotel, which was owned a very fancy hotel, the biggest hotel in Sharon, owned by a fellow named Jim Winter. He was the inventor of the club, the thing that put across your
the Winters. Yeah.
The Winters. Mm-hmm. And we became good friends with he and his family and his wife over the years. But we held, they had a performers party after the show. And all of these artists were in this big lounge. And we were all talking, and this corner would be some couple of guys harmonizing, over here people would be singing, talking. Well, early in the day, we had we were put up at the hotel, and I was walking in from the lot with my stage clothes on and a suit bag, and an older lady stopped me. She was coming down the stairs. She says, "Hi, are you going to be in the show tonight?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "Well, I'm in the show tonight too, and I'm having a problem. We haven't been together for 35 years. Would you have a pitch pipe?" I said, "No, I'll check with my guitar player." And what room are you in? She told me. So I checked with everybody, and I called up there and told her, I said, "I'm sorry, I can't find a pitch pipe." She said, "Well, if we can't get together with a pitch pipe or something, we're not going to be able to go on tonight." Well, I thought no more about it. We did the show, we went over, and then I saw this older woman sitting at a table with three other ladies. Two other, I don't know if it was two or three, toward the back of the lounge. And I said, "Who are that's the lady that asked me for a pitch pipe. Who are they?" She said, "That's the Cordettes." Mr. Sandman.
Yeah.
Okay, you know the song?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting there, and Mary Wilson walks over to me. She's got a book. She says, "Hey, Louie, I want you to sign my book." I said, "Mary, are you serious? I'm a beaten up old musician. Wait." She says, "You're my pal. I want you to sign my book." And I signed her first book that she wrote. Well, as we were talking, standing there, I heard boom, 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 boom. And I'm hearing these little old ladies over in the corner, sitting at a table. They started singing, "Mr. Sandman." And next thing you know, all these seasoned performers in the room got up and walked over to the table and surrounded it, holding up their cell phones.
Wow.
So people back home could hear them, and they sounded amazing. It was something that, it was a moment in history, musical history, as far as I was concerned.
My goodness.
And they got embarrassed and stopped. And they said, no, we don't usually do this. We weren't prepared. Somebody said, "What you need is a nice drink." She said, "Well, yeah, maybe in a minute if we get a drink. If we get a drink, we'll finish."
We'll perform, right?
There was about 20 drinks there on the table in front of them. And they really demurely took a sip and started singing this song again. And I can't tell you, as a musician, as a singer, I was amazed at their harmony after 35 years of not singing together. They were beautiful, and they got a standing O from all the musicians that were in the room. And I mean, talking about some big name acts.
Yes, sir.
Even Three Dog Night was there.
Right.
So, it's just one of those moments that I'll never forget as long as I live. Pat Benty was there. He's also involved up in the hall. Tony Buttel, everybody was there. It was one of those times that I'll never forget that happened. And recently we lost one of those ladies, unfortunately. God rest her soul. So now I'm done. I'm taking up too much of your time. I enjoyed it.
I've appreciated every single story. Thank you for sharing your life. Thank you for sharing the books, as well as the dialogue with respect to the cops, and how you've been able to really, build your family and build a legacy that for many years to come, people can cherish and enjoy. Thank you for sharing that with me and all of us.
Thank you for you.
It's my honor. It's my honor to be me.
Yes, indeed. God bless you.
Blessings to you. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I told you it was going to be. This is Lou Martin Sr., EntreMusician, has seen it all, has done maybe most of it. So some years to go at 81 years old, still giving God the glory for his wonderful talent. It's been wonderful, brother. My name is Jere B. That's Lou Martin. We are EntreMusicians, and so are you. We'll see you again next time. God bless.
Thank you.